I was 33 on the day of the World Trade Center attacks on September 11th, 2001, and I thought I was going to die. It's been 23 years since that horrific day, so my account of exact times is getting a little bit muffled. But I was at my desk on the 30th floor of World Trade 1 by 7:45 a.m. that morning and started sifting through my emails. I wrote my story down, so I'm reading for you. I wrote it actually 13 years after the attacks, so now it's 23 years and I want to video it for my children. So if you want to listen, that's fine. Go chop some vegetables and listen. My company had moved to the World Trade Center from Midtown Manhattan just before the year of 2000. Those of you who may remember Y2K, I know I'm dating myself here. Something I wasn't thrilled about because I was not a fan of subways, crowds, or heights. However, it was really hard to say no to a nice promotion, and I had a beautiful view of the Statue of Liberty and the Hudson River. Steve, my husband, and I had gotten engaged the month before. A month and a day before, to be exact, on August 10th, 2001. I was starting a new chapter in my life. I felt like Melanie Griffith from Working Woman. I got my man, I got a great job with a really cool office, and I was living my dream. Then bam, at 7:55, I don't know what happened. The building was struck, but I don't know what. A helicopter is what went through my mind. I was thrown from my chair and released a scream by the sheer surprise and force of the moment. The building swayed left and right like a pendulum, and I literally thought it was going to snap in half. When the building stopped swaying, it started to shudder like an earthquake for several seconds, and then it finally came to a stop. The only thought that went through my mind was, I can't believe I'm going to die like this. I can't believe my life is going to end today. I have not accomplished everything I wanted to, and that's what went through my mind. I was only 33. I scrambled out of my office into the cubicle area to gather with a few other people who had arrived at the office early that day. I was clutching my cell phone and tried to call my fiance. Somebody told me to stop shaking. We've got to get out of here. I turned to grab my handbag out of my office, and when I looked out the window, it was snowing paper everywhere. Hundreds and thousands of pieces of paper just coming down like snow. When I got back to the cubicle area, which was literally only seconds after I went to grab my bag, I was alone. I made my way to the hall, which was filled with smoke. I was by myself and the last one on the floor, except for a gentleman named Shalom Benzquin. He came through the thick smoke from the other direction. This all happened before 9 a.m., so there was not a lot of employees at work yet. Thank God. The door to the stairs was locked, so we banged on it for someone to let us in. We entered the stairwell with hundreds of people making their way down. Going up was not an option, and by the way, no emergency announcements. All of those fire drills and announcements and nothing that day. My father was a former New York City firefighter, and his words rang through my ears. Never work higher than the 13th floor because the ladders don't reach that high. Okay, note to self, listen to Dad next time. I also remember him always telling me, get out and get away. There were so many people in the stairwell and the smoke was thick and sickening. My eyes were burning. We moved methodically and slowly, but thankfully there was no panic. As we made our way down the stairwell, water started to flow beneath our feet. I took off my high heels to walk through the water. I never commuted in sneakers. Those of you who may remember, a lot of women commuted in white Reebok sneakers with their skirts. It took about 40 minutes to get down the stairwell. Those 30 flights of stairs, which looking back on it, was pretty good considering the circumstances. When I got to the bottom, there were firefighters and security guards telling us to run. I stopped for a moment to put on my shoes because I realized I was running on shattered glass. When I stopped and bent over to put on my shoes, I looked into the courtyard between the trade centers where the big fountain stood, and it was on fire. The courtyard looked like Armageddon. As I'm doing this, putting on my shoes, a big man, actually a big hunk of a man, swooped me up and started running with me in his arms. Now, mind you, I was recently engaged, and the first thing that came to my mind was to hit him with my shoe and yell at him, "What are you doing? Put me down." So while hitting this poor guy who was trying to get me to safety, he said, "You can't stay here. Things are falling from the sky." What he really meant was people were jumping from the building. He put me down, and I made my way swiftly through the atrium toward the pier on the west side. During this time, an older woman from my firm, her name was Iris, grabbed my arm, and she didn't let it go for the next hour. We could not find anyone else from our company. There were thousands of people surrounding the towers, and they were just looking up. Backtrack 20 minutes earlier when I was in the stairwell. There was no cell service that morning in Lower Manhattan. The cell tower on the top of the Trade Center was knocked out of service, but somehow my cell phone rang while I was in the stairwell. I answered the phone and I could hear the panic in my sister Eileen's voice. She had conferenced my fiance in, and he was insisting on coming down to get me. "No," I said, "stay put. You'll never find me. I'm coming to you." My fiance worked in Midtown on 47th and 5th Street. So when I got out, that was my mission, to get to Midtown. Remember my father's words, "Get out and get away"? I looked back at all the people looking up at the towers, turned back around, and walked north. We walked all the way to Chelsea Piers, with fire truck after fire truck screaming past us. Sirens to this day still haunt me. At Chelsea Piers, they had already established some first aid stations, but victims weren't coming. They were empty. We got some water, and I got to a payphone. I checked in with Eileen and Steve. We were safe at Chelsea Piers. "Stay put, we're making our way uptown," is what I told them. I turned around, and at this point, to look at the tower, smoke was billowing from Tower 1 and Tower 2. That's weird. What was going on? We were in the stairwell when Tower 2 was hit, so we still did not know that this was a terror attack. I looked at the tower and I said to Iris, "I don't think I can go back to work there tomorrow," as if that was even an option. Shortly after that, I witnessed the collapse of World Trade 2. This moment was surreal for me. To watch this tower fall, crumble to a massive dust cloud was truly devastating. It was like watching a movie in slow motion. This could not be happening. I was just there 30 minutes ago working. What is going on? People were lined up on the streets, and we started to hear the news about what was happening. 2 separate plane crashes into the towers deliberately. America was under attack. Iris and I continued our trek uptown, 3 miles in high heels. I made it to Steve's office by 11 a.m. miraculously. The most physical damage I had was the stinging from the smoke in my eyes. I didn't realize it at the time. The real damage was here. The terrorists accomplished what they set out to do that day. My sleep was tortured with nightmares of being in collapsing buildings. Sirens bring me right back. They still do. Manhattan, I'll go on rare occasions. There was another director that sat in an office next to me. I'm not going to mention his name. He was not in his office that morning when the tower was hit. He was in the lobby making his way through the revolving doors when the jet fuel blew out the elevators and exploded through the lobby. He was burned over 80% of his body. I never saw him again until I saw a photo of him on the front page of a local newspaper in his hometown. I happened to be working there while I was displaced. It featured a photo of him covered in bandages from head to toe. I only knew it was him when I read the caption. I am grateful I made it out. Sometimes I wonder why me. So many were lost. 11 co-workers, thousands of innocent people that worked in the towers, and first responders, senseless. I always go back to my faith, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, plans to give you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you.